You should have the link now.
I see it on my end, the globe at the bottom of the page showing interpretation.
Excellent.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the information session for Black Opportunity Fund's Arts and Culture and Criminal Justice streams of our granting program, with funding support from TD Ready Commitment, our valued partner since the inception of Black Opportunity Fund. These obviously, arts and culture and criminal justice are two of the core priority areas of Black Opportunity Fund, and areas where we have a lot of intersections with other initiatives that we're doing. We have a justice working group which is engaged very actively with the Black Canadians Justice Strategy, and we have a number of other initiatives soon to be launched for, in particular, support for Black visual arts. So again, thank you all for coming on board. And what I would like to do first, just to kick off this session, is our land and African ancestral acknowledgement. So we'd like to first start by honoring the land that we are on and the stewards of this land since time immemorial. I'm joining you today from what's now called the town of Pickering, which resides on land within the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation and Williams Treaties signatories of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations. These treaties and other covenants were agreements to peaceably share and care for the land and its resources. We are mindful of broken covenants and the breach of trust rooted in the acquisition of the land noted within these broken treaties, which has resulted in ongoing systematic injustices that impact First Nation peoples until today. As more bodies are recovered at residential schools across Canada, I invite you to join with us in standing in solidarity with all Indigenous communities and to remain individually and collectively committed to the important truth and reconciliation work that needs to be continued. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers and immigrants and refugees in this generation or generations past. And I would also like to acknowledge those of us who came here forcibly, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. And I acknowledge a shared history of our two peoples of bondage on these lands and the resulting generational trauma. Therefore, I also honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent, and to the elders and community stalwarts on whose shoulders we stand. So I'm Craig Wellington, the Executive Director of Black Opportunity Fund. We have a packed agenda today, as you'll see on your screen. I'm going to turn it over now to our Vice Chair, Donna Walwyn, who is also the chair of our Grants Committee and has been incredibly instrumental in setting up our processes and frameworks for the grant programs that we've been able to initiate at Black Opportunity Fund. And also, if change the next slide, please. So you'll see the members of our team who we will have on board, and we're again Donna Walwyn, the chair of our grants committee and our vice chair of the board of directors. Muzunza Musumbulwa is our program manager. Asher Kahia, the project coordinator. We also have, as a consultant, Floydine Charles Friedel, because one of the things that we are very proud of in terms of our transparency, our due diligence, is that we've brought on board external consultants to take a look at our granting processes to ensure that what we are doing is being always done through a community-driven lens that listens to community, and that we're dismantling the colonial structures that have systemically been there preventing access to opportunity. I'd like to turn it over now to invite Donna Walwyn to take over from here.
Thank you so much, Craig, and good evening, good afternoon from wherever you are joining. We began a little bit late, so I'm going to go through these remarks very quickly and just telling you a little bit about who Black Opportunity Fund is. We are a community-led registered charitable organization. As Craig mentioned, look, we have a mandate to dismantle anti-Black racism. And how do we do it? We are doing it by establishing what we aim to be the largest pool of capital in the world that is dedicated solely to Black-led, Black-serving organizations. Next slide, please. How do we do it? We provide support via access to capital, by providing grants to Black-led not-for-profits and charities, which is why we're here tonight. And we do that for charities who are leading initiatives that impact the quality of life in Canada's Black communities. We knew from the very start that, that the community already held many of the answers to the challenges that Black Canadians face. And so what we aim to do through our granting is to amplify the answers that already exist in the community, to support the work that is already being done, and to provide sustainable long-term capital for those. And so in addition to providing grants, the other thing we do is facilitate access to capital for Black-led businesses, which of course drives economic empowerment. And we know that economic empowerment and economic growth affects every other aspect of life. And so we aim to dismantle anti-Black racism through those two means. Thank you. We have focus areas, and we develop these focus areas by having hundreds and hundreds of conversations with Black Canadians across Canada. Those focus areas are health, entrepreneurship, arts and culture, youth, education, women and gender, criminal justice. And when we open grant windows, we focus on certain areas. This evening, of course, we will be doing arts and culture, criminal justice. Thank you so much. We can move on because we really want to get to the real meat of this evening. By the community, for the community. Look, as I said, what we intend to do, and all these words are great words, to disrupt ineffective and disempowering contemporary funding practices. We reimagine and decolonialize traditional philanthropy. What that means is that, and I go back to our very sort of catchy phrase, but which is embedded in the DNA of what we do, we back Black. We back Black-led organizations like each of you represents, and we do so by providing sessions such as this so that people have equal access to all of the information and a legitimate way to present the best application possible that makes it the most competitive application possible. And so we provide these forums to give you the information that you need to be able to do that. So thank you so much for joining. I am so looking forward to being able to make grants to even more organizations than we have already done. And I'm going to pass it over now, I believe, to Mzunza, our program manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our info session. We'll try and get as much information as possible. And come Monday, there'll be FAQ posted on BOF website. Before I go through my slides, just to mention that there's a French translation. So if you go down to the slides, there's a globe that says interpretation. So you hit that and select French if you'd like to hear the French simultaneous translation. As well, we'll have a Q&A at the end of the webinar, so you can put your questions in the chat and we'll get through them at the end. So back to the meat of the webinar, we are excited to introduce our 2023 Arts and Culture and Criminal Justice Grant in partnership with TD Bank, as Craig earlier mentioned. In terms of the grant overview, the total funding amount is $400,000. So we are focusing on the arts and culture, criminal justice programs that are Black-led, Black-serving, and Black-focused across Canada. The links to apply will be found on our website starting on Monday. Applications will open Monday, 8 o'clock. And the deadline for applications is May the 4th, 11:59 p.m. And we anticipate to announce the grant winners on June 30. They'll be announced through social media. Over to you, Floydin.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And with protocol already having been established, I'm just going to jump into this aspect of the webinar, which speaks particularly around the overall granting targets and goals. So what has been established by the Black Opportunity Fund are two-tier awards of grants. The first of which are the multi-year catalyst grants for impact. So there will be 2 grants at $50,000 each, and organizations are have specific criteria that they need to meet. They're required to submit audited financial statements for the past 3 fiscal years that have been audited by a licensed public accountant. And then the second tier, a single year grant of $25,000 each. With regard to the first tier, what we wanted people to understand is the catalyst grants are for projects that have already been established and are demonstrating long-term sustainability. And so the Black Opportunity Fund wanted to provide an avenue for people to have extra funding to build on a project that they have already started that is looking promising. And so that's why there are 2 of those that will be selected. Next slide, please. And in terms of the granting process, consultations were held with Black community members nationally to develop the focus areas for this granting cycle, meaning that it was not done arbitrarily. Black Opportunities Fund really invested time in hearing from what people across Canada said in terms of priority areas for this funding stream. Next slide. Now, in terms of arts and culture, systems change, capacity building, and mental health and well-being are the 3 areas of focus. So with systems change, collaboration initiatives that leads to system-wide changes for sustainability is one option that you can apply for. The second one are around initiatives that will build governance, operations capacity in order to increase impact. And then the third option is within the arts and culture space, looking at mental health and well-being. And that will be for you to make the case as to how you do that. Next slide, please. And then for the criminal justice stream, we're looking at reintegration programs, so programs and services that help individuals re-enter into society. Prevention and support, so programs or services that reduce risk of incarceration, and also mental health and well-being. And again, that will be up to the applicant to determine how they will submit their application as it relates to mental health and well-being. And lastly, grants requirements. You must be Black-led, Black-serving, Black-focused organization, otherwise known as B3. Must be a registered Canadian not-for-profit organization or registered charity. Must have an existing project in the area of arts and culture or criminal justice, which meets the granting program criteria, or proposed projects for which funding has already been secured. And then must have an active online web presence, so an up-to-date website, social media, and so forth. And then, this still me, Mazunza? Yes. So must be able to show, you must also be able to show up-to-date financial records within the past 2 years. So audited financial statements or unaudited financial statements coupled with a tax return and bank statements are acceptable. Organizations requesting $50,000, as we said earlier, are required to submit audited financial statements for the past 3 fiscal years that have been audited by a licensed public accountant. And you must be able to provide a project budget for the initiative for which funding is being sought. And you cannot have any outstanding debt tax debt or should have an up-to-date payment plan demonstrating at least 2 months of one-time payment of outstanding tax debts. So on-time payments, pardon me. And then organizations cannot have declared bankruptcy.
Tips for a successful application. Ensure that you fill out the eligibility criteria before applying. It will be online once you create an account. We'll walk you through how to create an account on the next slide. So applications must be submitted by May 4th. However, you're allowed to, create your account and start completing your applications within that time frame. However, ensure that the application is completed by May 4th. If you have any questions while you're going through the applications, feel free to reach out to my team through email bofgrants@blackopportunityfund.org. In your application, ensure that you clearly communicate the impact of your program. What is the program you're going to deliver? What are the activities? And if you're applying for arts and culture, be specific. What are your intended goals, outcomes? How many people are you going to reach? All those details are important for the adjudication team when they start reviewing and grading applications. As well, for the budget, please ensure that you have a comprehensive itemized budget with the activity codes, rationale for the expenses. If you have funding from another donor, indicate how those expenses will be allocated. So you can't have two organizations supporting the grant for the same expenses. As well, through the application, some of the application questions will be asked about your staff composition. Kindly elaborate so we know that you have the capacity to manage the programs, and as previously mentioned on the last slide, update your website, social media accounts. With that said, we'll now move to a demo on how to do an application.
Thank you, Ms. Nza. I'm just opening up the second presentation. I will be doing that for you. So just give me 1 second. All right. So I'm Ashika here, and I'm the program coordinator for the Black Opportunity Fund. What I'm going to be walking you through is how to submit an application through a software that we use that is called SurveyMonkey Apply. So the link to apply to this grant will be available on our website next week on April 3rd when the grant opens. When you click on that link, you'll be taken to a screen that will look like this. So it says, when you click the link to apply, you will see this. Read through the material as it contains important information about the grant and eligibility criteria. You're going to scroll to the bottom of the page and you're going to click on the green More button. So it'll look like that, as you can see over here. So once you click on that, you'll be taken to another page. On that page, you're going to click the green Apply button. So the green button will be right above the open date. So you can't see it right now because the grant isn't available to apply at the moment, but next week there will be a green Apply button that will be right there. You're going to click that to start your application process. You'll be taken to a login page. And if you have used SME before, or SurveyMonkey Apply, like we call it, you can log in using your existing username and password. If you forgot your password, you can use the forgot password down here. And if you've never used SME before, please register. You're going to see that in the top right corner of the page. So validating your email. Once you complete the process of registering your account, you'll be taken to the applications dashboard. So before proceeding, please check your email and use the link in the auto-generated SMA email to verify your account. So please verify your accounts before you proceed with your application. If you created a new account, you're going to see send verification link button at the top. If you didn't receive it already, you can click that and it'll send you another one. Once you verify your account, then you're good to go. So once you're logged into your account, you will see something like this. So on the left-hand side, it will tell you tasks that you need to complete. And then you can also see down here, there will be a breakdown of those tasks. So for this example, you'd have to complete the eligibility quiz. So here it says the number of tasks you need to complete, the tasks, and if you'd like to switch from English to French, you can do so in the top right-hand corner, EN for English and FR for French. So adding a collaborator. So if you want to add somebody to your application, so for example, a colleague who will be reviewing the application, adding content, or who will be responsible for signing the grant agreement, should your application be successful, please add a collaborator to your application. So as you can see here, there's going to be an add collaborator button when you are logged into your profile. A window will pop up and prompt you to add your email address of the collaborator and set access to their application. They will receive a system-generated email asking them to complete or to create an account and accept the invitation to collaborate. So once you do put their email in here, the two types of access they can have is they can either view and edit, or they can just view only. So they'll just have permissions to see it, but not make any changes to the application. So the first thing that you're going to be completing is the eligibility quiz. So for the eligibility quiz, you're going to click on the task to begin and fill out the form. You can use the save and continue editing button if you'd like to finish the task later, or after you've answered all the questions, you can mark as complete. So if you one day fill out half the application and you'd like to finish at a later date, you can click this button here. Once you're finished with the eligibility quiz, you can also click mark as complete to move on to the next step. Editing your response. So once you have clicked mark as complete, you'll still have the opportunity to edit your responses. If you have made an error in filling out this form, the edit function allows you to change your response. So under the eligibility quiz, you see these three dots on the application. What you can do is you can click on that and it'll give you three options to either download, reset, or to edit. So if you wanted to make changes, you click edit to make changes to your application. So editing your response. Once you've clicked mark as complete, you will either see additional tasks appear if you're eligible to apply, or immediately receive an email that unfortunately you did not meet the eligibility criteria at this time. So you will see something like this if your application does not meet the criteria. But if it does meet the criteria, you will see additional tasks that will be available for you to complete. And those would be on the left-hand side, and then you can complete those one by one. Organization information and grant application questions. So these two tasks are the main applications forms. They ask information about your organization, your project, and its intended impact. Upon finishing each task, there will be click mark as complete. Similar to the eligibility quiz, you can go back and edit your answers. So you finished your eligibility quiz and you were eligible to continue. You do the organization information, and as well, like we mentioned before, you click on the three dots here if you need to edit anything, and then you can mark as complete once you're finished with that section. So there's a section here for downloading and uploading a budget template. So this task provides you with a template to indicate the costs associated with running your program. Please include all program costs, like Mazinza mentioned earlier, not just costs associated with funding this request. You do not need to use the budget template we provide. You can upload a pre-existing program budget. And once you do so, please make sure you attach the file and mark as complete. So as you can see on this page here, there's going to be a green button here that says download template. So that template will be one that we give to you. We recommend you use our template, but if you don't want to, you can also attach your own. Once you fill out our template, you can attach the file using and then click this green button here. And then once you're done that, you can click mark as complete. So next is the financial statements. So this task allows you to upload your latest financial statements. Once you have uploaded your statements, you're gonna click Mark as complete. So as you can see, in this section, there will be information. It will tell you what type of financial information we're looking for, whether it's audited financial statements or whatever it is that we're going to need from you. You're going to upload that. So using the attach file button. And then also, once you're done with that, please click Mark as complete. Authorization. So this task allows you to respond to a series of statements about your application and to provide a signature. Again, once you're done with that, please mark as complete. So you're going to confirm what the question's asking you for each box. Put in your name, your title, your email, and then you're going to sign down here and then mark as complete. And then last but not least, so once you're done with all of the tasks, you're going to click either review or submit. These buttons will become clickable once all of your tasks are complete. Click review to read through all of your application tasks. You can also download your application form from here. So once you're done everything, if you'd like to review it one more time, you click the review button. That will bring you to a page like this. If you'd like to download your application, you can also do so by clicking this button here. But then once you're set and ready to go and you believe everything is done and everything looks great, you can click the submit button to submit your application. So there's two ways of doing it. Like I mentioned, one of the ways is clicking here. And then another way is once you are done reviewing your application, you can also click the green submit your application button. Acknowledgement of submission. So once you submit your application, you will receive an acknowledgement email notifying you that your application has been received and that it's under review. And we will notify all applicants of their status in June of 2023. So you will receive an email once your application is submitted. And that wraps up my presentation. I'll pass it on to Ms. Unza.
Thank you, Asha. Just to mention also that once you complete your application, you receive an automated response saying that your application has been received. If you don't receive that email, it means probably you didn't hit the submit button. So let us know if you're having any issues well before May 4th. And on to now to open Q&A. We'll go through some of the questions, and any member of the panel will be able to respond. So I'll start with the first question here. When will the funds be available? So the funds will be available mid of July. We're anticipating to finish closing applications review by the adjudicators and decision made by end of June, and funding available middle of July. Another question that was asked was how long is the grant period? So there are two streams, two tiers of the grant. The first tier will be the 50,000 multi-year grants. So those will run through 2025. And then the single year grants will be open from July to July of next year. Passing it on to Donna to answer any of the questions in the chat, if you're able.
Apologies. Thank you, Ms. Unza. I apologize. Let me go through the chat now. It says, so a brand new organization would not be eligible. Brian, I think that you may have been, the person who asked that question may have been replying to the fact or responding to the fact that we ask for audited or financial statements over a period of time, or the fact that that there must be a program in existence. Certainly for the first tier grants of $50,000, you would likely not be a brand new organization. So, you know, it is unlikely, you're not ineligible, but I would encourage you, if you're a brand new organization, you must meet all of the eligibility requirements. So unless you have a program that is already in existence that you're looking for funding, you would not be eligible. So I would encourage everybody to, again, really go through the eligibility requirements. Now, I am frankly having trouble navigating through the questions. Here we go. Open 43, because I'm not seeing all of them. Right. Most applicants have additional funding sources for a project, or can BOF's grant fund 100% of the project. That one I'm actually going to pass on. I think that there must be funding already in existence. It can't be 100%, but I'm going to ask Mazinza to correct me if I'm wrong about that.
So some of the considerations when reviewing the applications, we look at sustainability. So if you have funding from another donor, that's good for us. You just need to indicate on the proposal what that donor has approved for and what you're requesting for from BOF. I hope I answered that question.
So I think the other question is, if the program costs $2,000 and they have no other funding, can the BOF grant be the full amount of the program cost?
Exactly, as long as it's within the parameters, either the 25,000 or the 50,000.
Thank you.
While you're taking a look at those, Donna, I'll just jump in just to let everybody. Yeah, because there's a couple of questions with regard to, will the session information be made available? The session is being recorded and will be posted on our website tomorrow, and the link will be there available. So when you go to the web page on Monday, once applications are open, the link to review the information session will still be there, and that will also be there for those who haven't been able to attend today.
Thank you. And now can open all of the questions. Okay, there was a question about whether or not a single organization can apply to both streams. The short answer is yes, but it would be two separate applications as opposed to one application for both streams. And there are a number of questions. I'm going to lump these together and then ask either Mazinza or Floydine to answer these. There are a number of questions surrounding whether or not a new organization can act with a trustee, whether or not organizations can get together to make an application. And so I think we can lump a couple of those together.
I'll respond, and Floydine can jump in. So for this particular grant, we're asking for registered organizations, charities, or not-for-profits to apply on their own. The grant amounts are not overly huge, and that also gives an opportunity for small organizations to build their capacity to know how to apply for grants.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if I mean, it may clarify, if an organization does want to apply with a partner or trustee, whoever is the lead organization is the one who has to apply. So again, we do provide funding to not-for-profits.
And just a further clarification on that, the lead organization has to meet all of the eligibility requirements.
That's it.
Including the eligibility requirements that they be Black-led.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a number of questions that ask about specific programs, and I think we're going to not answer about specific programs. Once the grant is open, the parameters for the grants are set, and we don't want to disqualify anyone or say that this program is or is not eligible. Please, again, look at the eligibility requirements, look at the kinds of programs that our focus groups and our consultations with Black communities across Canada said are priorities within arts and culture and within criminal justice. The closer you are to those priorities that your fellow Canadians said should be our focus, the more likely you are to be successful. But that doesn't mean that other programs are not eligible. And I will turn over to somebody else to answer.
Yes, thank you, Donna, for being here. I think what we're trying to emphasize is that you will have to make the case in your application as to why what you're thinking about in terms of whether it's arts and culture or criminal justice meet all of the criteria, and the panel will review, but we are strongly encouraged to ensure that you read the details to make sure that you have covered all of your bases in your application. So once that happens, you can just really try very hard to make the case for your why your grant application should be submitted.
Another question here in the chat: for a not-for-profit that is 1 year old and doesn't have audited financial statements, do they still qualify to apply? The answer is yes, they qualify to apply. They can give us financial statements coupled with a tax return and bank statements just to prove that they've been in existence.
Just for further clarification, but they can't apply for the 50,000, correct?
That's
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Another question, Donna, before you jump in.
no, there was a please, yes.
Okay. If an application is unsuccessful, will feedback be provided? The answer is yes, we'll provide feedback, including adjudication notes that will help organizations be better at writing proposals, and also for the next grant if they're applying again, areas of strengths and areas of growth. So we'll provide all necessary feedback to support your request. Back to you, Donna.
Sure. And will this grant be offered annually on a recurring basis? At the beginning of this, and I don't have my video on, but there we go. At the beginning of this, we showed you what our priority areas are. So we open grant windows. We have different focuses. The first one we did, for example, was health and education. I can't say that arts and culture and criminal justice will be on an annual basis, but they definitely will recur. All of our grants at one point or another and on a continuing basis and on a rolling basis will be offered again with focus on our priority areas.
Donna, I wonder if you could respond. The question here about that are not Black led. I thought I understood that they have to be Black led, Black focused, and there was another criterion.
So I wonder whether it's possible to put up that screen with the eligibility criteria, because I think that that's super important.
Yes.
The organization that makes the application has to meet all of the eligibility requirements. Right. And what we'll say is that one of the things we encountered in previous rounds were organizations that were Black-led, that met all the eligibility requirements, including being Black-led, but then partnered with another organization that did not necessarily meet all of the eligibility requirements. and the partner organization made the application. That doesn't work. The organization to whom the money goes is the organization that makes the application, and that organization must meet all of the eligibility requirements. I hope that that clarifies the question. Do applicants need to be pre-qualified by submitting a letter of interest? No. Anyone can apply, again, so long as you meet the eligibility requirements. Absolutely. So once the window is open, once the applications are open, anyone can apply. Again, please ensure that you meet the eligibility requirements. There's a question here about clarification of the areas under culture again, and I wonder whether or not we can go back to that slide, if it's possible to go back to that slide. There we go. And I think that these are, again, where we are in terms of giving you some guidance as to what we heard from communities across Canada should be the focus for this grant. But I feel confident saying that if, this is not an exhaustive list. And so, as Floydine says, you make the case, but these are certainly our suggestions for where the focus area should be. So many of these are similar, so I'm looking for one that is different.
Asher, can you share the similar for the criminal justice? Yes. Thanks.
So someone asked if they can apply for tier 1 funding, which I believe is the $50,000 for a new program, or does it have to be an existing program? So maybe just some additional color on the tier 1 funding requirements. And I'll turn that over to Ms. Unza or Floydine.
Thank you, Donna. So for the tier 1 funding of 50,000, as Floydine mentioned, these are catalyst grants. So for projects that are already in existence and they want to have a strong impact, they have systems in place, and outcomes are well explained. They have the 3-year audited financial statements to support that they are strong, the governance structures are strong.
Thank you. There are a couple of questions about the requirement for audited financial statements. Just want to clarify that the requirement for audited financial statements is for those catalyst grants that Ms. Unza just described, the $50,000 grants. They are audited financial statements are not required for the other grants. However, we will require financial statements and bank statements. And that's just a matter of fiscal prudence on our part. Again, looking through all of the questions to make sure that we get anything that has not yet been asked.
I think further clarification may be needed that grassroots organizations are not being asked to provide audited financial statements. I don't know if we can go back to that slide to explain the requirements there. Let me see. Financial records. Yeah, so unaudited financial statements coupled with a tax return and bank statements are acceptable.
Okay. I am really trying to go through these 89 questions.
I think there are a few questions
There's-
about religious organizations here,
Ah,
Donna.
Okay. They
And if
certainly,
they're eligible to.
yeah, I mean, they're certainly not excluded. If you otherwise meet the eligibility requirements, you are certainly not excluded. Absolutely.
There's another question here. Would organizations that are not Black-led, but the specific department delivering services is and the clients are majority Black? So the requirements, eligibility requirements, we're saying you must be Black focused, Black-led, Black serving. So Black-led means 2/3 of the board or leadership should self-identify as Black.
Where do we find the eligibility criteria prior to April 3rd? Or will it be available on your website on Monday? And then there was another question about whether or not these slides will be made available to on the website or otherwise. The eligibility requirements, will they be posted on Monday, or are they available before then?
They'll be available on Monday
Thank you.
by 8 a.m. and the recording will be available as well on YouTube and on BOF website.
Wonderful. That's very helpful. And so hopefully that answers, there were a couple of questions about whether or not the slides will be provided.
Donna, there is a question here about whether on Mzunza, whether the people are able to apply for one tier or can they apply for both?
Right. So I think that we answered that, and the short answer is yes, but there should be two separate applications, which now I'm going to defer to Kaya, because is there when you go through SurveyMonkey, does that mean that two people from within the organization have to apply, or does SurveyMonkey prohibit?
So what it is if people want to apply for both arts and culture and criminal justice, they have to create two separate accounts.
Two separate profiles, right?
Exactly. So they can have two people from their organization submit the applications.
Thank you. So
I think they're asking about the tiers though.
In terms of the tiers, they have to select one because they'll go through the requirements and see what is the better fit for them.
So you can, right. So you can't apply for both tiers, but you can apply under both streams.
Exactly.
Okay.
Bearing in mind, the grant is nationwide, so we want to ensure equity and representation across Canada.
Right. So it is unlikely that an organization will get approved for both streams. The same organization will get approved under both streams, but you're not prohibited from making the application under both streams.
Exactly.
There's a question about providing more specificity around the program requirements for the Tier 2 funding. And I don't know that there's more specificity to be provided. The guidelines, but I would defer to Ms. Unza or Floydine. I mean, the program has to fit within the guidelines. But aside from that, we don't have a specific set of programs that would be eligible. Am I right about that?
Correct. They would just they would just look at the areas and then again make the case.
Yeah. We didn't want to be restrictive by providing an exhaustive list because we also recognize the fact that we don't know everything that's out there. We don't know all the good work that is being done. We know some of it. So we said, we are guided by what the community told us are important areas, but we don't want to miss out on the opportunity to fund something that is incredibly impactful, but we just haven't heard of it yet.
Donna, there's a question here about censorship. And if someone gets the grant, is there some censorship that follows?
Censorship?
Yeah,
Maybe I don't understand the question.
me either. That's why I defer to you.
I'm not, I don't know if
So-
they mean like publicity. Maybe that's the word they're looking for,
Oh,
instead of censorship.
I'll try and answer it as best as I can. So once the recipients awarded the funding, we do put up information on the website, and it's public information. They attest to that when signing the agreement, to say these are the people across Canada, just to ensure transparency. People know we funded grants across the country.
And
But
those are the people who are successful. We don't post
exactly
everyone who applied. We just post the people who are successful. And we do publicize that. Absolutely, we do.
I'm wondering if it also means, because I am aware that with some funders, when you are awarded funding, they will ask you not to say anything for a period of time until such and such happens. And I'm wondering if that's what.
We do that, so that it's embargoed for
Yes.
a week or two, so that we can make the announcement.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
it's a very short period of time. It's just, could you let us make the announcement first before you publicize it? But we absolutely encourage you to do so afterwards. All of the successful applicants.
Hey.
So I think that we have answered the big buckets. I'm looking to see if there's something that maybe we didn't touch on.
There is a question on reporting, so I'll answer this one. Is there any interim reporting required? Yes, we do require interim reports at 6 months and at the close of the grant. And to ensure that the activities are going on well, we do stagger the granting amount. So at the signing of the agreement, to provide 70%, and there's 30% holdback pending receipt of progress reports. So that's the narrative and the financial reports. And at the end of the project, we want to have the full project report, which shows the impact, the data, because we have to measure impact. How is our money, your money, being used? Is there anything changing? Say after 2 years, we want to see those changes. How many communities have been reached and in what areas?
And one question here that's also asked is about, will there be a list of ineligible budget items?
A list of ineligible
So
budget.
what could they not spend the money on? I do believe there is.
I think that in our, and I don't have it in front of me, but in our budget, in our template.
Yes.
The template does make clear what are eligible and ineligible. Yeah.
We'll post those as well on the FAQ and on the website. So I can give a quick answer. For example, we don't pay for depreciation, taxes owing, all those expenses that are actually outside the program area. We funding projects that are existing, attributable to the grant that you're applying for, the project activities you're applying for.
Thank you. There was a question about whether or not individual BOF team members would be available to assist people with their applications. And so no, one-on-one assistance is not provided. However, we are, and as Mzunza said, there is the ability to reach out via email if you're having a problem with your application, and certainly for technical issues with SMA Apply, SurveyMonkey Apply, please do reach out earlier rather than later, because we are strict on the deadlines for when applications will be submitted. There was some sort of technological reason why you couldn't submit. Unfortunately, the deadline is the deadline. So really encourage you not to wait till 11:59 to hit that submit button, so that in the event that there are issues, they can be resolved prior to the deadline. Oh, Mazinda, maybe there's this one here. Is there a deadline for the grant money to be spent? Like, can somebody get the grant and then hold on to the money for 6 years?
Ideally, we want the money to be spent, if it's a single year grant, within that 1 year.
And if
If
the
it's a multi-year,
if the payments are tiered, I suspect that if you haven't spent the first amount, we won't issue the second.
exactly, because once we receive
won't be
the
able to show
interim
any impact.
reports, we
Yeah.
look at how much has been spent, right? If there's a huge chunk that hasn't been spent, then we won't release until such a time that you draw down on the funds. And to answer that question as well, there were some cases during the current grant where they were not able to implement the project as planned. Due to staffing issues, there was an outbreak of COVID at work, so most of the program staff were not able to, as well as their partners. So we gave them a no-cost extension for 6 months. So no-cost extension means we're not giving you any further funding. It's still within what was originally funded to you.
Thank you. I think that those are the primary buckets. All right.
Yeah, and we'll
Back
sort
over to-
the questions during the week to come up with a comprehensive FAQ list of common question items from the folks.
And that will be available on the website as well.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Can we remind everyone about the email address? It's in the chat, I believe, about the email address they should use for questions.
I
Great.
dropped it in the chat.
You did drop it in.
BOF,
Thank
yes,
you.
BOF grants at blackopportunityfund.org.
BOF grants at blackopportunityfund.org. All right, I will now turn it back over to Mazinda to close us out, unless there are any more questions.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Thank you to the panelists and to all of you who found time to attend the webinar. It's good to see a big turnout, and hope it's been informative to you. And as we mentioned earlier, we'll keep answering questions throughout the grant period. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll respond to you.
Thank you to our interpreter. Thank you for all of the incredibly hard work for the team, Mazinda, Floydine, Haya, for the, I mean, you think it's hard making the application, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. I can tell you that there are 10 times more hours that go into creating this process. We want to make it as transparent as possible. We want to make it as equitable as possible. I hope that all of you apply, and I wish you great success on your applications. Really looking forward to seeing the impact for Black Canadians that these grants will make, and the good work that your organizations do. So thank you all for all that you do within the community already, and I hope that we can help to amplify that.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.